session. And very briefly about myself, I'm originally from Georgia country, and I joined EducationUSA in 2004 in my home country. And then I moved to Germany, Hamburg, where I was an advisor at America Zentrum Hamburg. And finally, right for the last 2 years, I'm a part of EducationUSA program at America House NRV. Very briefly about our center, we are one of the German successor organizations in different cities in Germany, and we are in Cologne, America House Cologne, but nowadays we are named America House NRV, which means North Rhine-Westphalia, so we are covering the whole land. Today we are located in Cologne, but as for EducationUSA, all our programs, sessions, events go online, but it's not only EducationUSA at our center. We do have different projects. It's like events on transatlantic topics, America House at School project, where we bring similar topics on politics, economy, education, culture to schools, and with American speakers. And my part, again and again, it's EducationUSA program supported and funded by US State Department. Very briefly about EducationUSA in general and in Germany. So we do have numbers. You see that there are 430 plus international student advising centers in the whole world. And no matter where we are located, we are providing unbiased, accurate, comprehensive information regarding different studying possibilities in the US. And as for Germany, we are 10 certified EducationUSA advising centers in different cities. And as I mentioned, mine is Cologne. We've got center in Stuttgart, in Munich, etc., etc. So 10 centers. And the reason, again, and thank you, Oksana, for inviting me, is that I'm in Germany, so I'm German advisor, but right now I'm in a project to assist Ukrainian students in Germany, whether they might need a major or minor assistance from my side. You've got your advisors in Ukraine, but in case you've got friends or relatives or somebody who needs some kind of assistance in Germany, please just let Oksana know, and then in return, back to our topic. So I will start with a GMAT test, and it's like I started with the graduate. I will start with graduate admissions tests, and then I will slowly move to undergrad tests, and in the end, language tests. And again and again, in the end, if you've got questions, please, you're more than welcome to ask them. So GMAT is Graduate Management Admissions Test. And its target audience is business school applicants, and of course required by business schools. And I would say, maybe then Oksana will add as well, but I would say that for the last several years, a bit less students take GMAT, and I will explain the reason why, but still it is quite popular test. But as I said, target audience is business school applicants, and the purpose is not only with GMAT, it applies to all other tests we'll discuss later. It's checking candidates' suitability to whether it's business school or graduate school or undergrad studies. And in terms of GMAT, it's assessing verbal, mathematical, and analytical skills of a prospective student. And duration-wise, 3 hours and 7 minutes, and there are with optional breaks. And sometimes students ask me whether they should take the breaks or not. I would urge them and recommend always, all the time, please take your break, and it helps a lot, believe me. I was, and later I will mention, I was a TOEFL test administrator, and it was helping a lot for the students just to relax and not to think about next section, for example, for a while. So continuing with the GMAT test, it's, I decided to show the test costs in one currency, not to mix, not to give sometimes in euros, sometimes in dollars. So let's say that we are focusing on USD, and it's 250 worldwide, but always with all the tests, sometimes there are a little bit changes depending where you are taking the test. Okay, it might be some kind of additional small center fee. It happens with the TOEFL, for example, or with other tests. So this is just a test administration cost, and it's valid for 5 years. The test scores are available, older ones as well, but we've experienced that sometimes the business schools are asking, they would prefer that you take the new one unless it's, let's say, 7 or 8 years old. It's available, but it doesn't mean that it might be always helpful. So official website is nda.com, where you can register for GMAT test. Let's move to GRE next, graduate admissions test, and the official name is graduate record examination. And the reason when sometimes the business schools, so they say that they accept GMAT and GRE. So I mentioned the less applicants for GMAT tests in accordance with the GRE, because very many business schools nowadays accept GRE test as well. It's like GMAT or GRE, but sometimes it's just GRE that they are fine with this test. That's why I would say it's the number of GRE test takers is quite high. Actually, before pandemic, it was high. So pandemic affected all the test taking statistics, of course, but they hope that they'll be soon back on track. And here you see target audience is the prospective graduate students across all disciplines. So it might be psychology or engineering, graduate schools and departments in, I would say, all US universities. It doesn't mean that all graduate programs require that. No, don't get me wrong, but when they require, it might be, let's say, sometimes it's just GRE general test, but sometimes it might be GRE subject tests as well. So they are two different test types, but normally graduate programs, I can say that they require one language test and GRE general test. So GRE, as for GRE subject test, it might be GRE subject in math. So it's like higher level of math in that case. Duration is around 3 hours and 45 minutes altogether. As for additional more information, you see the cost, $215 everywhere and valid like GMAT 5 years. And as for official website is ets.org GRE. So ETS will meet ETS with a TOEFL as well. So it's well-known website for very many students. As for next test, also a rare to be taken because it's like specific LSAT, law school admission test, and no doubt that it's just no surprise that students who wish to enroll in law school at the GED level, they require this test. So all these tests, once again, they are admissions tests. So this is one of the requirements. So they are required by law schools in the US and Canada, and not only, I've experienced and I've met and heard some European law schools also started requiring the LSAT test. And as we mentioned with other tests as well, the purpose is to check students' readiness to be on that. And again, I missed to mention that LSAT is also graduate admissions test. And it's checking, analyzing complex texts, organizing information, evaluating arguments. As for duration, 3 hours and 30 minutes, excluding breaks. So including altogether, I would say 4 hours. So as for the cost, similar to GRE, $250 US, valid for 5 years. So they've got some kind of resemblance of this graduate admissions tests. And official website is isac.org. And just general overview. If you need more information or the links again and again, write to us and we'll provide as much information as we can regarding each of these tests. Next, I would say very popular test is SAT, Scholastic Aptitude Test. I would say in Germany, and when students compare SAT or ACT, no comparison in regards of being popular. I don't know what about Ukraine, but maybe then Oksana will comment on it. So very popular test, wide spread. So Scholastic Aptitude Test, shorter form of SAT, is taken by high school juniors and seniors applying to colleges and universities, but on bachelor level, okay? And like in GRE here, also we can mention that there is an SAT general test and there is SAT subject test. And SAT is for SAT subject test, it's not required in all the schools. So general test is required in very many schools, but not all. In the SAT subject test, even less number of universities require them. For example, there is right now, several of my students are taking SAT subject tests, and let's say it might be SAT in French. When you're German, SAT in German is also possible as a subject test, but Germans cannot take it. And SAT in literature, so American literature, etc., etc. So, but today's topic, as we mentioned, it's just we mentioned SAT general test, and it's accepted by all colleges and universities in the United States, and not only. It's getting more popular. And as for the duration, is 3 hours and 15 minutes altogether. As for the price, varies depending on the location. Here, we thought it might be useful for us to mention Europe, Eurasia cost, and basically it's valid forever, never expires. So this is kind of the motto they are proud of. But sometimes students take this test, but it doesn't mean that this score is enough. There is a tendency here in Germany, at least with several of my applicants, that they need to retake it unless the score is what they need, okay? Because very often SAT test helps with financial aid as well. And it's not just taking the test, but it should be the good score to be competitive enough. So official website is collegeboard.org. Next one, ACT, American College Test. I was also administering back in Hamburg. And if very many students ask me what would I suggest them to take, and which is difficult from advisor's side to recommend. So content-wise, these two tests differ. But as for admissions-wise, it's either SAT or ACT, not both. Sometimes students take both tests, but there is no need for that, okay? So ACT is what I've heard from both test organizers, that SAT is more curriculum, more logical test, and ACT is more curriculum based. And very often ACT is taken by the students as well who are very good at science parts as well, because there is one section in ACT which measures like part of it, physics, chemistry, biology is included over there. It's just one section of science. So while choosing the test, always I would recommend my students that just look at the test sample in both cases, and then it's up to you to decide whether this or that one is more suitable for you. And it's also very popular test. In the US, I would say, as I've heard from US school representatives, in some states even more popular, but Europe-wide, at least by my experience, SAT is more popular. Anyways, both tests are accepted by US universities and colleges. And as for duration here is 2 hours and 55 minutes, a bit less. Yeah, cost, it's here is an option. You can take the regular test plus writing, or regular test without writing. And here, price-wise, there is a difference. As for validity, with SAT, we mentioned that it's basically valid forever, but here ACT test is valid for 5 years. And as an official website is act.org. So official website is the website which you can use to register to take this test. So next test, we are slowly moving to language tests. Okay, so once again, we started with a graduate test, then it was undergrad, ACT, SAT, and now we will move to language tests. And these language tests, all of them mentioned here today in our presentation, can be taken for undergrad or grad students. So it's admissions test for both levels. In this case, we are not differentiating, okay? And TOEFL, I'm sure everybody heard of this test. It's test of English as a foreign language. And for everybody who wishes to study a program which is delivered in English. And it does not only apply English-speaking countries, but also non-Anglophone ones. And TOEFL results can also be accepted as a proof of English language knowledge while applying for a visa. So it's just a wide range of necessity in regards with TOEFL. And as for a duration, around 4 hours with a mandatory 10-minute break. So it's just, you cannot avoid that break, but it's, as I mentioned above, I would say very much helpful. As for TOEFL, you see it's just a range between 180 to $325 in Germany. At least recently it was 250, for example. It's and validity is 2 years, and the official, very famous website is ets.org. The same with GRE. So this organization, they administer not only these 2 tests, several more, but for our presentation, we needed 2 of them. Next, also, I would say very much popular test is IELTS. And let's say target audience and requirement wise, they are very much similar and overlapping. I would say that very many German students, they consider US as a studying destination, and also UK or English-speaking other countries. So whenever they come to me, they are also considering other countries. So let's say TOEFL or IELTS can cover most of the countries where you can have a program delivered in English. So either or, do not take both tests. There is no need. As for the duration, 2 hours and 30 minutes plus 15 minutes for the speaking test. So as for structure-wise, so these two tests are very much different. I know much more about TOEFL because I was teaching and administering that test. And as for the preference, students, so TOEFL is online. So it's IBT TOEFL, which is nowadays taken, so internet-based TOEFL. And as for the IELTS, it's just very many students of mine, they preferred IELTS because they said it's, it's like, with the person interaction and speaking part goes that way. And with TOEFL, everything goes online. That's why, once again, just to tell you that just check which test structure is more suitable for you personally. And then afterwards, don't be in a rush to choose which test to take. And when there is a requirement, either or, there is no better test in this regard. IELTS, as for cost, is big range is $175 up to $270. And valid is like similar to TOEFL for 2 years, and the official website is ielts.org. Yeah, before I move to Duolingo, I would like to mention that, let's say, several when applying, there were, let's say, 2 options for admission requirements. 2 main options, I would say, IELTS or TOEFL. Okay, it's just, and they, some universities, they have also their own language check probabilities, and which is like, let's say, solely applies to that university, but main requirements worldwide were TOEFL or IELTS. And now on the market, there are some other tests, some other options. And I see the tendency of taking Duolingo tests for the last, I would say, several years, more compared to the previous ones. It's getting more and more popular. So, as for acceptancy, I would say TOEFL and IELTS are more accepted, but they are getting there slowly. So over 3,000 institutions, it's not a small number. And each year they are proud that some other institutions are taking this test as a requirement. And I would say that it gained popularity during pandemic because it's online, and we'll mention it later. And you see duration 1 hour. So it's also a kind of big plus. These are the items how they boast that why should you take Duolingo and not TOEFL, because come on, in the market TOEFL is well known. So Duolingo, not that much, but it's getting there. So convenient, very much convenient. Upon demand, take the test online anywhere, anytime. Just brilliant, right? You are sitting at home and you can take the test. Whereas in regards of a TOEFL or IELTS, it was the center was needed, right? Though TOEFL also offered online option, not to lag behind. TOEFL is also possible to be taken online, but not before pandemic. There was no option before pandemic. And for example, as I mentioned, I was administering TOEFL in Hamburg, and I had some students from Sweden even because it was like on high demand, and when there was no spot in their home city, they were coming to Hamburg. So Duolingo, with the Duolingo, there is no problem. Anywhere, anytime you can take this test, and affordability is also impressive, I would say. $49, and it's like it was written on the website. Imagine our price compared to expensive tests. So, and the official website is English test duolingo.duolingo.com. I would say the last but not least, again, also this is also an option for is one of the admissions tests. Okay, C1, because Cambridge certificate is like very many school kids also take this test, but there are different Cambridge English qualifications, and this one namely is C1 advanced. Is one of the options as an admissions test. Okay, and acceptance rate is here quite high, over 9,000 institutions. And as for duration, it's about 4 hours. As for the cost, you see here is also depending on the location and on the center, price differs between $165 up to $195. And as for what is brilliant with the C1, valid for life, no expiration date. Okay, so it's they are very much boasting by this element. And the official website is cambridgeenglish.org. Once again, just to summarize that the English tests which we mentioned, so TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, and C1 advanced, they can be taken as an admissions test for both graduate and undergraduate students. As for news, very happy to announce this. We are happy to have 20 vouchers available for Ukrainian prospective students who want to take GRE. So that means that these vouchers will be handed to Oksana later once she is in need of them. And the only requirement is here is that the students need to register by the end of December, but the test itself can be taken anytime before end of, there is misprint, October 2023. I'm very sorry, this 3 is missing here. So 2023. And once again, this test will be given to Ukrainian students a 50% discount. Once again, it's our all possible our links, homepage, my email, Facebook, Instagram, and EducationUSA Germany website. And not only you can reach me, but also other German centers in the country. And as for, once again, my email, Karshava@americahouse/nrv.de. Please ask me whatever you might be interested in. And if I cannot help you, I will direct the questions to Oksana, and she will assist you with your questions. And basically that is it. Last slide goes to questions. Whatever the questions you might have, we're happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Tamar. It was a wonderful presentation and very good overview about all the tests, about possible tests. So we have a question from one of our viewers, Maria. If I take the SAT more than once, will I need to show all the results when applying to the university?
Thank you very much. Actually, with SAT, you don't have to show all the results, but sometimes it's good to show the previous results as well, because very many universities, they have the policy that they get the best score out of the all TOEFL test results, all SAT test results. Let's say you have taken SAT 2 or 3 times, and sometimes it happens that one section is improved, but one section was scored a bit less. So in that case, if you provide all the test results to the universities, they choose the best one, but you also have a full right not to show the previous one if you think that it is not worth showing.
Thank you so much. So
Sure.
one question from Daria. How long does Duolingo test valid?
Duolingo test, let's go back to Duolingo. We don't have the validity. Okay, Duolingo is valid for 5 years.
Very good, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So the question from Taisia, can
Yes.
SAT raise the possibility for being applied to the university?
Once again, can SAT?
Can SAT raise the possibility for being applied to the university, for being accepted to the university? Thank you.
Okay, actually, I would say that SAT very much affects the financial part, okay? It's not the only decisive factor, but based on my experience, it helps you, of course, it helps you for being accepted, plus it might be really helpful for the university to decide how much financial aid they might provide to you.
Okay, that's very good information about that test. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So actually, you mentioned several language tests like TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, C1, but it seems to me that there is such information that C1 Advanced, which is like by Cambridge exams, is not accepted at all universities in the United States. Is it true or false, or how could you comment it? Like any information?
I would say it's not, yes, and we mentioned here that it's like 9,000 institutions are accepting it, yes. If we compare that TOEFL and IELTS, they are more accepted, basically covering all the universities, and C1 Advanced and Duolingo is accepted in less number of US universities. And that's why we first check what are their requirements. Sometimes they are 4, you know, it's like myself was checking with several students, and sometimes they are listed all of them. Sometimes it's just TOEFL or IELTS, still this kind of 2. Sometimes with the Duolingo, just TOEFL, IELTS, and Duolingo. So why don't we first check what are the requirements? Because no, you are absolutely right. Not all the universities cover C1 Advanced or Duolingo. These first 2 mentioned tests are wide accepted compared to the last 2 ones, but I mentioned them because they were getting more and more demanding. That's why it's an option. Again and again, let's say when we say TOEFL or IELTS, the same applies to a C1 Advanced or Duolingo. So one of them, we don't need any 2 of these tests, just 1.
Thank you so much. So next question is from Taisia. What SAT score is competitive for financial aid in general? Like, the more the better.
Absolutely, it's like a very specific question. So let's say that on these sections, I'm not an expert on SAT, but what I can say that, let's say section is, next score is 800. I would say that if you want to get financial aid, I believe that 700 plus should be the best option. You know, I myself had the students who scored maximum on math, let's say 800, but 720, 750. This is also, I would say, the good score. But once again, generally, not only focusing on tests. So admissions probability and financial aid probability depends not only on the tests. I always tell to my advisees that it's just, somebody might have a brilliant test score, but either not being accepted or accepted but not given as much financial support as he or she needs or expects. You know, it's just the whole application package matters. So this is, I'm always trying to explain it to my students, because sometimes students will come with a very good Zeugnis. Zeugnis is a German term for transcript, so 1.0, and they think that that's the only thing they might need. No, it is not like that. Of course, the better transcript, the more chance, right? But it's just the whole package. Requirements are not only transcripts or not only the admissions test. Your essay is very important, recommendations, and the whole the package, extracurricular activities, etc., etc.
Yes, great, thank you. So, of course, if you want to get the highest scores on this test, you need to prepare a lot. So maybe you could recommend like how to do it. Yes, so like what our students can do to get the highest scores.
Of course. So what I recommend my advisees in Germany is that actually there are a lot of online or in-person courses, but most of the German students, what they do, they prepare for this test themselves. So they order a book or several books on Amazon, and they train themselves at home. That's one of the options. And I would say before choosing one of these tests, please check online first, before buying even a book, check online the samples of each test. Okay, it helps you a lot to figure out which one is more suitable to you as a person. For example, I had advisees who would not take TOEFL because it was like, let's say, 4 hours sitting in front of a computer. And because I remember, I just recall one girl from Hamburg, she had some kind of minor but still eye problems, and she preferred, for that reason, she preferred not to take the TOEFL, and she switched to IELTS. So it's just first and main and important aspect is to figure out which test to choose. Then I would say what I have mentioned before, check one sample of each test, and then order a book or 2 books and practice at home. Plus, I always suggest to watch films in English, read books, which is like general suggestions how to practice on the tests.
Thank you so much. So you mentioned like about vouchers on GRE test. Are there any vouchers, like free waivers for tests like TOEFL or IELTS or Duolingo or like C1, SAT, ACT, and so on?
Thank you, Oksana. I'm negotiating with all test providers, and fingers crossed. And in Germany, how they say, Daumen gedrückt, that we'll have more positive news. Because I know how important let's say TOEFL is to be taken, and it's not a cheap test, and I'm working in that direction. And as soon as I've got some positive news, and hopefully I will have some, I will share with you, and in return you can share with your advisees. But right now, what we've got and what is confirmed, that is a GRE test option with vouchers.
Thank you. That's great news, and thank you for your work in this in this way.
Sure. I was so excited. You cannot imagine when this GRE lady, she was also excited that, you know, we can offer that. And she, by the way, helped me to contact TOEFL test organizer who is in charge of, and yeah, it's a negotiation process.
That's wonderful. Dear our viewers, dear students, if you have any questions, you can still put them in the chat. And like again, question like which our students usually ask, what is maybe the easiest language test? Could you please like recommend from your point of view? Like, how do you think?
You know what? As I mentioned, I mean, I was teaching and administering TOEFL, but I would not say that it's a super easy test because, you know, duration is something we have to think about, right? It's just tiring and in front of computer. Structure-wise, what I've heard from my colleagues and my advisees who took IELTS, it's also different and not that easy. I would single out of these all 4 tests, Duolingo, the easiest one. First of all, because the duration is just 1 hour. That is very much impressive for me. You know, it's just, of course, different skills are measured. All the tests measure our 4 skills, right? Listening, speaking, reading, writing. But time-wise, it's just 1 hour. And I assume, I'm not very well versed into these tests and details, to be frank, but I would imagine that Duolingo is the easiest among these all 4. But again and again, we have to check whether this test is accepted in your respective university you are applying to, right? So it's just that's why when I start advising, first thing I suggest to check all the requirements and then to choose and focus on the test itself. Yeah, I would say Duolingo.
Thank you so much again. So it seems to me that we don't have like any questions for now, but I'm sure that we will have a lot of questions after the session, after the presentation. So I would like to encourage you, our dear students, to contact Tamar or EducationUSA Ukraine. And if you have any questions or hesitations, or you would like to get more information about these tests, so please contact us and we will be happy to answer all your questions.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you very much for joining the session and for your time. And here is my email. And if you've got questions, again, regarding GRE, I would be happy to distribute this all 20 vouchers to students who will be taking GRE tests.
Thank you, Tamar, for joining. It was a wonderful presentation, and thank you, our dear viewers, for your comments and questions. We were happy to organize this session for you, and please join our next activities this week because we are celebrating International Education Week. So my congratulations on this event, and for you, Tamar, as well. And see you on our next events. Have a good evening and goodbye.
Bye-bye.